Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to all three of you for being here and for your service to our country. Secretary Kendall, we have the best intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance capabilities in the world, but I'm concerned that the drawdown of our fleets of ISR aircraft, including Global Hawk, without adequately replacing those capabilities in the Air Force is a concern. Do you believe that we have the best ISR capability now versus any of our adversaries?
Yes, overall, but we need to modernize, and we need to modernize quickly. And one of the things we're doing is shifting more capability into space, and that's largely because of the increased threats to our airborne platforms. We're acquiring systems like the E-7, which will give us an important element of this capability. We always want to present the threat with an array of problems, not just one problem. So we don't want to be totally dependent on space, and we can't be totally dependent upon airborne platforms. So we're going to have a mix in the fleet for the foreseeable future, and we're going to have a more modern set of capabilities. A lot of our existing capabilities are very useful in a benign environment and a not highly competitive environment. We want to retain them for that purpose, but we also need to get on with modernization of more survivable assets at the same time.
Right.
I'd be happy to give you a more detailed brief at classified level.
Right, and we need to do that, and you and I have talked about that. But for purpose of this briefing, so it is important that Air Force maintain that capability and that we not have a gap in terms of what our leadership in ISR now, with the idea we're going to hand it off to space and maybe have it in Space Force someday, but have a gap in either time, like a 5-year time gap, or capability, where an adversary like China might have a superior ISR capability, correct?
We're moving into space as quickly as we can. And we have funded programs right now, particularly for ground moving target capability that, again, they're highly classified. And we're moving forward on technology and programs for air moving target indication as well. Some of our older systems like AWACS, for example, are increasingly expensive to maintain.
Right.
We've drawn them down as a way to be more efficient with the aircraft that remain. There is a transition happening there. We've reduced our MQ-9 fleet, but we've got it to a level now where we think we're going to maintain it. So we're trying to manage that and manage the risk, but we're moving aggressively to space. That's not a long way away.
Right, but you'd agree at the same time we have to maintain the best ISR capability versus any of our adversaries as we do some of that transitioning. You would agree with that?
We do need to maintain ISR capability when air as we transition. And I think you're aware, I know you've been briefed, Alvin and I have been talking about some of the things we're doing and how we're going to take advantage of some of the programs that we can't talk about in an open hearing.
Right. And, well, my two remaining questions are, but in addition to ISR, we want to have some offensive capability as part of that as well, right? Both in terms of cyber and kinetic, right? It's not just ISR, yes. Right?
Yeah.
It's those offensive capabilities combined with stealth. And the other thing is, are you willing to work with this committee to make sure there isn't any gap and that we're working with fixed price contracts where we know the costs versus a projected capability and a projected cost, which is likely going to be much, much higher? My question is, you're willing to work with the committee and that those things are important. That's my question.
They are important. We'll work with the committee. I don't want us to talk by each other one time. I'm trying to be careful here. But
you know where I'm going.
I think I understand where you're coming from,
yeah,
and
thanks.
be happy to work with you.
Okay, appreciate it. And General Saltzman, anything you want to offer on the same issue? Because you're obviously a big part of that transition.
Absolutely, and as you know, SDA is doing some work to help start to foster the kind of data transport layers, the kind of missile warning capabilities that we'll need, as well as the GMTI capabilities that we are collaborating on, as the Secretary mentioned. All of those, if they're fully funded through the program as designed, looking at later this FIDEP to start to deliver some of those capabilities.
Yeah, to get the right result, we have to work very carefully with both of you to make it happen the right way. And then General Hoeven, I want to thank the chairman for his emphasizing the importance of the nuclear triad and the updating of the ICBM to Sentinel and how important he thinks it is, and that I concur with that. I do as well. I also want to express my appreciation for your answer that the modernization is an absolute requirement and that we'll address Nunn-McCurdy as part of that. And I appreciate the steps you're taking to make sure that that gets done. A specific question I have for you is in regard to weapons generation facility at the Minot Air Force Base, which is the only dual nuclear base, status and your plans to address that.
Obviously, the weapons generation facilities at all of the bases are key. They're going to be important, and as we've discussed before, we need to ensure that we have those accomplished in the right order, so by the time we're ready to take on the platforms, such as B-21 and the modernized platforms, we also have the right weapons generation facilities to be able to arm those as well.
Okay. Again, thanks to all three of you. Appreciate it. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.